Hi, it's Sandy with Sandy Cogdell Designs again, and I have another card for you today. This is actually a Get Well card, and it is Fawn's Swivel Surprise die, which I am absolutely in love with. I think this is the most creative, interactive die that they've come up with in a long time. Everything about it is just so fun. Anyway, hit subscribe if you'd like to be notified of future videos. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And let's get started. All right, I'm starting out with the circle part of the die where I'm going to be putting my sentiment. The sentiment is from the A Waffle Lot stamp set, and I loved the little sentiment in there, but I wanted it to curve around my circle. So I'm going to get that placed on my little stamping block, and then I'm going to stamp it onto the center or the circle die cut. So first of all, I got to kind of figure out where the center is of that stamp, and then I'm going to place it on my block and curve it around that circle. It takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it just right, but you eventually will get it so that it goes just around that curve. And I kind of use the stitch lines that I can see through the block as a guide on where I need my stamp to curve. Once I have that placed, I couldn't decide where I wanted the second part of my sentiment. So I kind of looked at it putting it directly under the longer part, but figured it would probably work a lot better just at the bottom of the card. So I will get that centered on the center of my stamp block, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink it up and get that stamped out. Okay, I wanted to put a lot of different little elements on the bottom of my card and create a little scene. If I had used a standard A2 card size, there wouldn't have been very much room left once I have my interactive piece on there. So I decided I'd go ahead and do a square card. I'm finding that I really like the square cards. They just seem to be just enough space. They're wider than a slimline, a little bit bigger than a mini, but it gives you so much more room to work with. Anyway, I'm using a piece of yellow cardstock. I've cut it at 5 1/4 by 10 1/2 and scored it in the center. I have also cut pattern paper panels at, I believe that would be 5 by 5, and I'm gluing them on the inside and the front cover. I left the back blank. I didn't add any paper to that. I guess you could if you wanted to. Anyway, the paper is from Lawn Fawn's Pint-Size Patterns Summertime, and those just are such a nice little collection. I like that you can use the two different patterns, but the colors are all complementary. Because I've changed the card base size, I needed to do a little bit of adjusting on that arm mechanism. So I cut the one in its full size, and then I cut another one just at the bottom, just using the bottom portion of that die. And I'm going to measure up 7/8 of an inch from the bottom, where the bottom where there's that embossed line. I'm going to make some little tick marks, and then I'm going to glue the original arm mechanism on top of that. It gives me just a little bit extra room so that that arm, when it is activated and the pieces are, well, not only when it's activated, but when the card is closed, that all the pieces are within the card and there's nothing hanging over on the outsides, if that makes any sense at all. I guarantee you need this extra little piece or your card is just not going to work. I can't tell you what kind of struggle session I had with that. So to recap, you're going to measure 7/8, 7" up from the bottom, and then you're going to glue the actual arm piece onto that little piece of paper. You definitely need to make sure, though, that you have that embossed end so that you know where to fold it. Now I'm going to fold my little pieces. Everything gets folded to the back on all the little score lines. And I'm going to get that so that that top part is folded and it comes to a nice little point. Once I get those all folded, I'll go ahead and just give it an extra crease by using my bone folder. And again, because I've changed the base of my card, I have to put that in that little mechanism in a spot where everything is going to work perfectly when that card opens and closes, and that my little designs are all within the card. Not so much when it's open, but definitely when it's closed. So I'm going to measure up 2¼ inches from the bottom, and then I'm going to measure in 3 and, let me see what my notes say, 3 3/8 in from the crease on the center of that card. And I'm just going to put a little tick mark with my pencil. And that is where I am going to line up the point of that mechanism. So I'm going to glue down or add glue to that little fold that's in the very back at the top of the mechanism. I'm going to add some double-sided tape to that. I'm going to line up the point on my little tick mark on my card and adhere that down. Now I can start putting the rest of the little mechanism together. So I'm going to put some double-sided adhesive on the two little pieces that come out when that arm is pulled. So I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape on that little piece that Kelly calls a butter knife, because it does kind of look like a little butter knife. I'll go ahead and line up my blue circle with the edge of that. And then I'm going to take the double-sided tape on that other little piece that springs out, and I'm going to place the patterned paper that's cut like a donut, so the larger circle with the hole in the center. I'm going to feed that through that mechanism, and then I'm going to glue it, lining up the edges on that other little piece that pops out. Third piece of the mechanism gets attached by using the little, it's a rectangle that you're going to fold on that scored line. And I used glue to glue that onto the little mechanism. You're just going to line up the little X's that are placed on the die so you know exactly where to put. Once that little piece is dry, I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided adhesive tape on that piece, and I'm going to center up my circle that's got the sentiment on it and press that down in place. And then I'm going to give my little mechanism a little bit of paper training is what I call it, just kind of making sure everything is moving, that there's no little pieces of adhesive tape that's causing it to not want to go. Also, because that arm is a little bit longer, the arm tends to want to bend when I move it. I think that's going to be okay, because once I cover that with a little bit of patterned paper, it gives it just the stability that it needs, so that when the card is opening and closing, that paper is not bending. Now I'm going to apply some adhesive tape to that last little tab. I'll put a couple good little strips on there, and then I'm going to close my card. And everything should be lined up and in perfect working order for that mechanism to move freely. Okay, looks like everything's working pretty good. I'm going to cut a piece of pattern paper 1 inch by 2 3/4. I'm going to apply some liquid glue to that and cover up that arm. I think not only is it necessary for cosmetic purposes, but you do need that additional strength, I think, so that the mechanism arm doesn't bend while you're opening and closing your card. Again, I just am so fascinated by how easy and cute this is. It's just amazing. All right, now we get to start coloring. I am using Copic markers for all of my coloring. I use Express It blending card for my coloring. It's a paper that I've been using for a number of years, and for me it just works perfect for blending. The stamp sets that I'm using for this particular card are Love You a Latte, and that would be the little cup that I added the tea bag to, or the mug that I added a tea bag to, and the little teacup and the plate. A waffle lot, which are the waffles, the tiny butter pats, the melted butter, the strawberries, the blueberries, and the forks. So Smooth is the little orange juice carton. On the Mend is the tissue box and the little soup bowl. And Let's Toast, which is the toaster and the little piece of toast. Starting off with the waffles, I'm going to be using YR20, YR23, and YR24. I also use that color combination on the toast, but I add in just a little bit lighter color in the center of the toast. I don't know that that was even necessary to do, but those are the colors that I'm using for the browns. My little strawberries are R02, R05, and R08, which is a more muted red. I just didn't want anything like stark red, just because my paper on that upper ring was more of a pinkish color. My butter cube, my butter pats, and the melted butter are done with Y00, Y02, and Y08. The little melted pieces of butter also can be stamped with a face, and I did that off camera. I just stamped faces on 2 of them, and they're the 2 little melted butters that are on my waffles on the sentiment piece. For the toaster, I'm going to be using R30, R32, and R35. Again, I wanted a reddish color, but I didn't want it a bright red, which I usually save for usually 27, 29, or 39. But I wanted this to blend in a little bit better with my pattern paper. I also colored the little mug with the tea bag with the same color combination. The blues that I'm using blend in pretty well with my pattern paper also. I'm using a B91, B93, and B97. And I will be coloring in the little teacup, the plate, and the little tissue box. The carton of orange juice, again, is nothing too bright. It's YR01, YR02, and YR07. The little label, I use the yellows, which to recap are Y00, Y02, and Y008 to color that in. Now that I have everything colored in, we can go ahead and start putting it all together. So I pretty much laid this out before I got the camera going, just because sometimes it takes me forever to get everything glued on. So I'm just going to glue everything on kind of in layers. At the last minute, I decided that I needed some little critters in here in addition to my waffles. So I used some little mice that I had previously colored, and I just have kind of on hand to add to little cards. The little mice are from Dandy Day, and the sitting one, let me see where he's from. Hold on. Let's see, the sitting one is from You Autumn Know. I should know that as much as I use the little mice from that stamp set. I find that is one of the stamp sets that I use the most. For the front of the card, I am using Giant Sending Big Hugs for my sentiment. I also outlined it with a piece of blue paper just to give that sentiment a little bit more depth. And then I'll add on my little tissue box and my little chicken noodle soup bowl. Also, when I was done with all of this, I decided there were a lot of blank spots. So I went back in and just cut out a bunch of different little hearts and added them throughout the cover and on the inside of the card. I'm also adding on another little set of mice that I dug out, and those are also from, or that hugging couple is also from Dandy Day. And that pretty much does it for this card. As I said before, I absolutely love this interactive mechanism. I have a million ideas rumbling around in my head to make some more. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment if you like. I try really hard to respond to them. Hit subscribe if you'd like to be notified of future videos. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.